corporations, then the members of Congress are going to respond. That can be stopped by replacing those members of Congress, very simply. And I realize that's a very simplistic statement, but it's a very simplistic reality. As far as the Chinese are concerned, I don't know what the answer is to that, because we have dug such a deep hole. That's how you start a war, is by saying to the Chinese, look, the deal's off. All that paper you had for us, fuck you, choke on it. That's about the time the Chinese say, oh, okay, well, it may be time to invade Japan and India and eventually work their way over here. So we are in a real tenuous situation where it concerns the potential for a real explosion. And I want to ask Professor Hartman, don't you agree?
Yes.
Thank you.
Bill, do you agree?
Well, I was going to ask you, but I'm sorry. I'll ask you a question about Harry Reid's balls, all right? I'm just kidding.
Bill.
This is part of a larger problem, I think, too, which is that, and kind of comes back to this no backbone argument we were talking about before the break. Look, Barack Obama would not be in the White House. Democrats would not be in charge of the House or the Senate without the support of organized labor.
Yeah, that's
the
right.
unions put those people in power. And I say that as a proud union member myself. And so what's the first thing that happened? Employee Free Choice Act, Republicans didn't kill it, the Democrats killed it.
Yep.
The Democrats refused to renegotiate the trade agreements and open up even more. And then they were talking about taxing the health care benefits of working men and women. So I'll tell you, a lot of the union leaders that I took are pretty pissed off because they feel that they wasted the money on these guys. In fact, the Sheet Metal Workers Union and several others have said they're not going to give one more dime to any Democrat until they start getting some action on the Hill. And if the Democrats don't do what they want, then they'll get other Democrats to run against them in 2010. That's what you've got to do.
The Washington State Labor Council.
Well, it was like
has
the
recently
Republicans
started
blamed the
thing.
whole, auto industry thing on the unions, and it's like the unions already gave a lot of concessions.
Yes. Yes.
You can't put that on one entity like that.
Sherry in Shelton asks the question this way, which goes back to something Mike mentioned about the power of the corporations just a second ago, talking about trade. It's now more evident than ever that we need campaign finance reform, real campaign finance reform. Should the progressive movement focus our energies there, or is it simply not a feasible goal? Should that be a priority? Is that the path to a lot of the other things that we've talked about here tonight, including...
I think so. I think there are a couple of essential issues that we've got to deal with, and that's one of them. Until corporate money is taken out of the system, why would the system change? So, yeah, I think the answer to her question is yes. There has to be campaign, not McCain-Feingold, but something that says, there should be a maximum contribution from any American, pick a number, it's arbitrary, $100. And that's it. There are 300 million Americans in this country. If you want to write a check on behalf of your spouse and your 2 kids, then you can write a check for $400. But that's it. And if you know where the biggest amount of money goes in campaigns is to television bullshit. Those 30-second spots that are just horrific. And just say to the politicians, look, that's A. B, we're going to deny, you can't use, I realize this is if Mike Malloy were king of America. You can't use television. You want to get your message out? I have an idea. Hold a town hall meeting where you can answer questions and talk to people. Get some volunteers who go door to door. But until we get the money out, the corporate money out, that's one of the essential problems.
Yeah. Why do we even need $400? Why should you be writing a check to a politician? You get pulled over for speeding on the highway.
That's
you don't
true.
give the cop $20 to not write. Well, maybe you try, but you get in trouble that way.
Well, that's right. If you want to take it,
why should anybody be giving politicians money? You want to canvass for them. You want to go knocking on door to door. You want to make signs for them. That's all fine. Why are we writing these people checks?
Well, if you want to take it down to that level, you're absolutely right. If you want to go all the way down to the baseline, I agree. The politicians will say, I've got to have money to do mailings. I've got to have money for to organize town hall meetings or whatever, and they're going to get the money someplace. So, but I essentially agree, Ron, that it should be no money.
Well, I mean, but I think that the big thing that we've all been bringing up is look at like single payer, which we all think it would be much better and is not even on the table, but it's because of money. It's because there's too much insurance lobby money, for all of these guys. And how are we ever going to get... I mean, when you look at to me, healthcare reform, there's more of a disconnect between the American people and politicians than on any other issue. You look at what the American people want and what they're doing, and that's a huge disconnect. So, I mean, that right there, I think shows you what we need to do about money in Washington, yeah.
We've been talking about campaign finance reform, oh, God, how long? I mean, I think publicly financed campaigns is the answer. I also think that the networks ought to be required to give free time to candidates for debates.
As they once were.
As they once were. Exactly.
They're using our airwaves.
Of both sides, and then do away with the television advertising. But I just want to introduce a note of reality here is, as much as I believe the ultimate solution is campaign finance reform, if we wait around until we have campaign finance reform, if we wait around until the people who are in office and in power pass a law that's going to take power away from them, we ain't never going to get anything done.
But that's where I mentioned earlier the Green Party has IRV in more than 300 cities, and San Francisco being the largest. What we're doing in Portland is really a brilliant example. A fellow by the name of Eric Sten, who was on our city council, actually pushed this thing through. It was a very narrow vote. He worked tirelessly on it. In Portland, which is a city of between 1 million and 2 million people, if you can get 1,000 people to give you $5 and sign a petition, registered voters, then the city will give you $100,000. If somebody runs against you who has not gotten that $5,000 and that 1,000 signatures, and in this case, in the last election, Eric Sten was up for re-election, and a woman named Jenny Burdick, who had been a good Democrat in the state Senate and was now a private, working for an ad agency and a consultant and working actually with the power company that was the spinoff from Enron, she ran against him without public funding. And she could spend up to $100,000.
Period.
But when she spent $25,000 more than Eric Sten, then the city had to appropriate $25,000 to give to Eric Sten to match her. That made the front page of the newspaper. All the taxpayers are going, wait a minute, we got to pay another $25,000. We got to give another $25,000 to Eric because Jenny is spending more money that she's getting from the power company. And then there was another $10,000 that she got, and then Eric got another $10,000. And the story became how this privately funded politician was getting her money. The story didn't, that became more important than the issues, although the issues were real, but there really wasn't that much space between them on the issues except on whether or not the power company should be bought by the city. But the point is that Eric Sten won that seat because everybody figured out that the person he was running against was representing private interest and he was representing public interest. And that's a model that can be replicated all across the United States, and it can be done at the city level. Every community can do that kind of thing that we did in Portland. And I think that when you've got 1,000 communities across America that have done that, states will start to do it. Maine has already done something very similar to this. States will start to do it, and then it'll filter up to the national level, much like healthcare did in Canada.
That's a great plan. Yeah, like that.
You're all looking at me. We must be ready for another one. Yes? Okay, excellent. I don't know if any of you will disagree with this, but we'll ask it. It comes from someone named David, not me, in Everett. Doesn't it make sense to end the war on drugs by legalizing drugs, regulating and taxing them? We would raise money and lower crime. Anybody disagree?
Yeah, that makes great sense.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, there's no disagreement. We're going to move on.
Whoa, stop. Okay. Why don't we do it? It makes so much sense.
For the same reason, I'm guessing we don't do all the other things that we've talked about here tonight, right? Isn't that the problem?
It's politically impossible,
It's the only thing that can get us out of the hole in California that Schwarzenegger dug us into. Trust me.
I would put one caveat on that.
I mean, it's the #1 cash crop